Hello, this is the Watchdog, and welcome back to Fun with Watches. If watches weren't fun, you'd only need one. Today we're going to review the Pagani Design PD1680, homage to Grand Seiko. Let's start out with the wrist check. I'm wearing a Guankin GJ16199, and Grogo is wearing my Kern 8106. Grogo said that there was an insurrection in an outer system still loyal to the Empire. So Princess Leia asked Han to send some troops to restore order. So he asked Chewbacca if he was ready for the front line. Chewbacca said he prefers canine advantage instead. Okay, let's take a look at the watch. It comes in one of these newer Pagani Design boxes with the blue metallic look. And here it is. Oops, got it upside down. I was treating the crown as an escape valve, and it doesn't even have one. And just for reference, in case you missed my unboxing, it came with a black NATO and not a Bond NATO. This is another case of Pagani Design homaging a watch that doesn't get a lot of love in the homage world. Grand Seiko was started in 1960 to compete with Swiss luxury brands, but unfortunately Seiko did not have the foresight of car makers Toyota and Honda, which gave their luxury lines the completely different names Lexus and Acura. Thus, even though in 2017 Grand Seiko became independent from Seiko, they will always be considered a Seiko Deluxe due to that pesky Seiko in its name. Not only does Grand Seiko have first-rate build and finish, the movements are quite impressive, and they have a high beat movement that ticks 10 times a second. And then they have the spring drive, which does not tick at all and has a perfectly smooth sweeping second hand that is quartz regulated but without a battery. This Pagani Design has no such movement and sticks with the ever-faithful NH35. It would have been nice if they would have gone with the Miura 9015, but that would have significantly raised the price. There are 4 different colorways: black, blue, green, and burgundy. I chose the burgundy because there are not a lot of burgundy watches out there, and it just seemed a little bit more Grand Seiko-y. The green and blue colorways have matching bezels, and I usually prefer matching bezels, but in this case I think the black really works. The watch is 42.8 if you measure at the bezel, 44 millimeters at the case. Has a 47 millimeter lug to lug, which is fairly short considering how big the case is. A lot of that has to do with these really steep lugs. It is 52.25 millimeters though if you measure the retreating end links. It is 12.9 millimeters thick, which it doesn't sound that thick, but it sure looks a lot thicker than it is. Has a 22 millimeter lug width, and it tapers down to 17.8 before you get to the clasp. And it weighs 171 grams on the supplied bracelet with 2 links removed, so this watch is fairly heavy. The bezel is a black 120 click unidirectional with a ceramic insert. The action is excellent with nice solid clicks and no back play. Nor is the bezel too stiff as it turns, and it turns fairly easily. And there's no gasket resistance or anything like that. Really good bezel action. If any complaint would be maybe it's just a hair too light, but it lines up just nice. This is some of the best bezel action I've seen on a Chinese homage. The bezel has a loom pip and a minute markers over the entire bezel, not just the ascension phase. The dial has a nice sunburst effect, and it is a burgundy, although my camera makes it look kind of brown. For some reason, the purple part of the burgundy just kind of fades out with my camera. I've been kind of disappointed with this camera. It's a Pixel 4a, and I was expecting great cameras from a Pixel, and the still camera is quite impressive, but the video camera not so much. It says Pagani Design and has the logo printed on top. And of course, every time I do one of these reviews, the hour hand is in the way, so let me move it real quick. Then on the bottom it says automatic, water resistant, and has the 200 meters, which is pretty good for Pagani Design. Most Pagani Design dive watches are 100 meters. Then it says Japan movement on the bottom, And this indeed has a Seiko NH35, which is Japanese. There are applied loomed indices with batons at the 3, 6, and 9. Then at the 12 o'clock, it has the double teeth like of most Seiko watches. But if it was a Grand Seiko, it would have been a triangle. More like an equilateral triangle, not the long triangle of a Rolex. Then it has dots everywhere else. Then it has a 4 o'clock date with a border and no cyclops. And then it has a minute marker chapter ring on a shroud. The loomed hands are both arrow hands, which is different than the Grand Seiko, which has a cathedral hour hand. Plus the minute hand arrow is not so long. And like the Grand Seiko, the second hand has a loomed lollipop as a counterbalance. The sign screw down crown is at the 4 o'clock, and even though the thread action is smooth, there is not the usual distinct pop when unscrewing, and sometimes you just have to keep going until you just give up and know that it's out. Plus, when you screw it back in, it takes quite a few rotations before it screws in. But it's smooth, and you won't have any difficulty using it. The crystal is a synthetic sapphire. There is no mention of air coating, but you can see through it just fine. If you look at that reflection, yeah, it probably doesn't have any air coating. The solid steel case is the highlight of this watch. Pagani Design claims 24 surfaces and a new polishing technique that they say is very similar to the Zaratsu polishing they use in the actual Grand Seikos. The brush surfaces are very fine hairline brushed. Really nice case. And the lugs are nice and steep, keeping the lug to lug shorter than a watch this big would normally be. Thankfully, the screw down case back is not a display case back. No need to see an NH35, which is a rugged, reliable, but not exactly attractive movement. It gives the Pagani Design name and the model number, and then it says stainless steel and gives the water resistance. And then on the very back, you see it's kind of like a beach pattern, because those don't really look like waves. It kind of looks like maybe sand, and maybe there's some water right there. And then up here you got the Pagani Design logo surrounded by compass directions. Underneath the case back is the Seiko NH35, the go-to automatic workhorse movement for watches in this price range. It is a 24 joule 3 Hz movement that hand winds, hacks, has a bidirectional rotor, and a 40-hour power reserve. The tolerance is plus 40 to minus 20 a day, but most NH35s are very accurate right off the shelf, but do not have the consistency of a higher end movement. Here it is on the time grapher. As you can see, the watch is running from 0 to +1, so it's pretty accurate. But look at that beat error. Some of the worst beat error I've ever seen, and it makes 2 distinct lines in the time grapher. The bracelet has solid protruding end links. The end links are very nice, really complement the angles of the lugs. The links look like a 3-link, but if you look carefully, you'll see the center links are 3 links. You can see them right there. You can kind of see the seam. So it's not just brushed in the middle and polished on the edges. Those are actually 3 links put together. The side links are brushed and polished on the edges here. The bracelet looks very nice. There are screw pin adjusters, and unfortunately the slots and the screw pins are very shallow. And I really struggled with my screwdriver adjusting the bracelet. It was kind of very tedious. Your screwdriver will slip a lot with these very shallow slots. The sign clasp is the go-to clasp of Pagani Design lately for any of their non-Rolex homages. It's a fully milled clasp with 3 holes of micro adjust and a diver extension. I won't complain about the driver extension this time because it is an actual diver watch. I complain a lot though when it's a chronograph or something that's not dive related. And the reason though that there's only 3 holes of micro adjust is this diver's extension takes up so much room in the clasp. Here's the watch and my 7.5-inch wrist. The steep lugs make this big watch wear nice and flat. But once again though, it looks pretty thick. Even though it is just barely under 13 millimeters, it looks like it's 14 or 15. I think a lot of it has to do with these really tall lugs. And here it is on the supplied NATO strap. I'm sorry, I just don't think it looks near as good on this NATO strap as it does that really nice bracelet. So it was kind of nice to finally get something other than a Bond NATO. I have a feeling I'll never put it on anything other than that bracelet ever again. Here we are in the Loom Room. Pagani Design claims in their ad that this is the best loom they ever put on a watch. So let's find out. As we speed up the time, we see that the index loom and the loom pip is indeed first rate. But uh-oh, look at those hands. They are fading quite fast and will soon be invisible while the indices are going strong. Once again, it does no good to see indices if you can't see the hands. What do I like about this watch? Well, truly stunning looks. It's just an awesome looking watch. It has a great bezel with great action and no back play. It has an awesome case with really good finish work, really good polishing and brushing. And I really like this bracelet. These center links really add some flair to it, and these end links really complement the lugs. What are my gripes and groans? Hand loom isn't near as good as the index loom. And the screw pin adjusters have very shallow slots, making adjusting the bracelet difficult. And this clasp only provides 3 holes of micro adjust. And a watch this heavy needs a good fit. Do I recommend this watch? Yes. Clearly this is one of the best looking watches Pagani Design has ever produced, and clearly the best finished. Yes, the hand loom is disappointing, but nobody buys a Pagani Design for the loom anyway. Well, thank you for watching my review of the Pagani Design PD1680. Be sure and like and subscribe to my channel, and I will be back with another review, probably that Guankin I'm wearing now. Bye.